All righty. So, welcome to Long Island Nightlight LINL Radio interviews. I am Lou, and I am pleased to be here today with Thomas from Eden Has Fallen. Thomas, you're in Ohio. Is that correct?
That is correct. Columbus, Ohio.
Okay. So, the last couple of interviews we were in Texas, and now we move over to Columbus, Ohio today. So, Thomas, you are the vocalist and bass player, correct, of Eden Has Fallen?
Yeah. So right now, Eden Has Fallen is a two-piece. So I am the primary vocalist, and then I fall into whatever's needed. So like most of our shows, I end up falling on a bass because bassists and drummers are the hardest to find.
Sure.
But then I've played a show where I'm on rhythm guitar. So really whatever's needed. And then as far as songwriting goes, I'm the bass writer, but then I also will help write guitar parts with my lead guitarist.
You're multi-instrumentalist, I believe. And guitar and bass. Do you dabble in drums or any other kind of instruments? Or
I do, yeah. So I'm the worship director at my church,
cool.
And that being said, most of the Sundays I'm actually back behind the kit because we don't have an actual drummer, and so whatever I can fill out the stage. And luckily I'm blessed with plenty of people who can lead. So I'm like, yep, you take over. I'm falling back, and I'm just banging on the kit.
Cool.
And then I've done a few fill-in shows on drums for some people within the local scene, and looking to get more into that. And then as we're speaking, I'm joining a ska band on drums. It's in the little entry part of the phase of growing a band. So we'll see what comes of that. But yep, I can do most things except for piano. I don't know what it is. I can't do the two-hand thing, even though I can do hands and feet. It's weird, but
yeah, that is.
Figure most things out except for piano.
Drumming, you definitely need a lot of coordination for that. So, but cool, that's cool. That's awesome. As I said before, I've been checking out you guys' single "Hero's Heart." Definitely striking artwork. I thought that was really cool.
Thank you.
Heavy stuff, but melodic at the same time. I just want to give you the floor to, just to say anything you want about the single, the writing process, the meaning behind it, anything you want to say about it. So.
Yeah. So when we first started this band, I'm going to kind of like preface a little bit, and I apologize now. I'm a rambler, so if I get way too off, I go down rabbit trails, but they somehow get back to the original point. But if I get too far gone, just try. Do not be afraid to guide me back to the question.
Yeah, you have the floor, so that's what we're here for. We're going to hear from you and talk. So.
Perfect. So when we started the band, I had my lead guitarist actually auditioned for my indie pop band, and he was way too, I hate to use the word good because it's just a different style, but he was way too technical for it. And we're like, all right, we have another person who is a better fit for this band. And I was like, I'm holding on to you until I'm ready to start something heavier. And then lo and behold, like 4 or 5 months later, I started building up the band. I pulled a drummer, guitarist, and bassist from another local Columbus hard rock band called Breakaway. So they came in and helped to get the band started, and then helped in writing music. So I preface with all that to say that this song, Hero's Heart, was, I don't know if it was the first song, but it was one of the first songs that we as a collective band came together. The main riff, that little like that you hear like in the intro, that was brought by my lead guitarist Isaiah as our Unholy Confessions ripoff, Avenged Sevenfold. And so that he brought that right out the gate with us. And then as a band with the previous drummer and guitarist and bassist, we kind of fleshed out and created a shell of a song. So the rest of the song was really developed through a lot of their input, especially some of the dynamic sections. The drummer, he loved writing music. He's actually the primary lyricist of his band, Breakaway. Cool. So he actually wrote all the lyrics for Hero's Heart. I had nothing to do with any of them except for messing with the melody of it.
Okay, gotcha.
And then putting in screams here and there, and then the backing vocals. So he helped a lot with like the dynamic and the direction of where the song was going. And then TJ, the guitarist at Breakaway, who was in our band, he helped a lot as well with just like determining what chords we should go into and whatnot. And when we started the band, we weren't sure what we wanted to be kind of classified as. So we're leaning more and more into becoming like a Christian rock, Christian metal band. Because from the very beginning, we wanted to incorporate our faith into this project. It's just something that somehow I got blessed with every member starting being a believer, which I did not see coming. But we weren't sure where we wanted to land in the scene.
Sounds meant to be. That's really cool.
So it was so awesome. So when we started, we weren't entirely sure. So when Sam was writing lyrics for our early stuff, wanted to leave it a little bit more vague, I guess. So like Hero's Heart, it's about Christ and his crucifixion on the cross and everything. But maybe to like the average listener, if it just pops up on Spotify and you're just passively listening, you might not know that. But it still has that kind of that thematic piece written into the lyrics. So all that to say, the lyrics written by our drummer were just kind of implicit of kind of like the gospel, but also not like in your face about it.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah, and I think that's music like that is a great bridge for folks who maybe are not they don't share the same faith, and they need to kind of be eased into the ideas and everything behind it. So I definitely understand that, and I think that's really pretty cool. I found this. I was listening to the single on YouTube Music, but I assume that it's available like on all the different platforms and everything.
Yeah, basically everywhere. I keep getting my little I use DistroKid for distribution. So I keep getting emails saying it's been added to this, and I'm like, cool. I didn't know that was a thing. So
right.
Oh,
yeah, or whatever. Yeah. No, and the whole reason we're here chatting is to to promote your music and to get things out there for you. So so I want to make sure the audience is aware where they can find Hero's Heart. What else was I going to say about that? You guys, oh yeah, and I just wanted to mention that I was looking at your Facebook page and I saw Breakaway a lot. So so now I understand the connection with that band. So now, did you guys? Am I correct in that you guys underwent a name change recently? The band went through a name change. Is that something that you'd like to discuss? Or
yeah, definitely. So when we started the band, I actually brought this band together under the name Embers of Hope. And this is where love having bands and members who are not afraid to like hurt feelings. They did not like it at all. They're like, we need something different. Let's change it. So after some brainstorming, we did some little exercises to figure out a new name. We landed on the name After Eden. And so that's what we went under for the better part of, I don't think quite a year. I don't think we had it for even a year. Because we're still a relatively new band. We started in I think March or April of 2023. So just about a year we've been together, or we've been operating as a band.
Cool.
And so we were under the name After Eden for a show for two shows, and we were prepping for our third show in Columbus. And one of the bands that was playing with us promoted the flyer on their Facebook page and was like, yeah, come check out this After Eden show. And this other band from, I think in Tennessee with the same name, After Eden, messaged them or commented on their post or something, somehow communicated with them and was like, by the way, you guys are using our name and we have legal rights to it. So if you do not stop, we will yada, 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 basically threatening this other band. So they reach out to us and was like, by the way, this other band is sending us all this stuff. So I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll reach out to them. I'll find them. So I ended up finding the guy who ran the band and was just like communicating back and forth. And I was like, well, we have a show coming up in a couple weeks. I was like, I just don't have the mental capacity or the time to worry about a name change. Is it okay if we just use it for the show? We'll use that opportunity after that to just formulate a new name, new identity, and go from there. He's like, yep, no problem. You can do it for your next show. So that show ended up getting canceled because of the venue. for those who are from the area, for those who know Big Room Bar, you probably know everything that was going on with that, the radio closing down and everything. So there was just a lot of stuff, moving parts with that. So the show ended up getting canceled, and then I ended up getting a reschedule at another local place called Ace of Cups, and just kept the same lineup and everything. So I was like, all right, cool. Now that we know what our name's going to be, we had already brainstormed and discovered that, all right, Eden Has Fallen is going to be the new name. We were going to use that as our name change show. So we were still promoting it as After Eden, and it's partly because I was waiting for our logo to get designed, like redesigned and everything. So I was like, I'm not quite as worried. Like, we'll use the show After Eden, and then when we're there, we're like, oh, by the way, new name. But then the guy reached back out and was like, you were in violation of code ... XYZ123. If you do not stop, we're gonna. And again, they didn't reach out to me. They reached out to another band on the bill.
Right. Okay.
It was like, we're give us the names of all your members, and we're gonna write you all up. And so they messaged me again, and we're like, hey, this dude's saying some stuff. What do we do about this? And I was like, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. So we ended up announcing it shortly before the show. And I guess really that's all that's to it. Really long process for such an easy thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that was pretty cool of you to initiate contact with them and discuss it with them. They're very defensive about their name there. Let's see if they're still around in a year or so with that name. Because as you know, a lot of bands come and go. So, it's, to me, it sounds like they may be focused on the wrong things, but that's just my opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you've answered like some of my questions already, like how did the band form and that kind of thing. I'm curious about you personally, how you got into music and what musical inspirations you have personally. So if anything you'd like to say about that.
Yeah, so growing up, I did not have a musical bone in my body. Music was not natural to me. And my dad played guitar when he was in high school. I think he was in a Chicago cover band or something. And so he had a guitar, and he would sometimes bring it out and play it and let us touch it, but we didn't know what we were doing. And then until middle school, played in band. I played trombone, was my instrument in high school.
Yeah.
And again, was so bad at it when I started. At some point, music just clicked around early high school, and I was like, oh, this is starting to make sense. And with that was starting to play bass. I started playing bass in 7th grade. I have a twin brother and an older sister, and so we all went to a local music shop. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, about an hour west of Columbus. So we went to a little music shop in Fairborn, Ohio, and looked around, and I had no interest in playing anything at all. My brother was like, all right, guitar. And my sister was like, yeah, let's grab drums. And I was like, I'm just going to look around. And I think it was my sister was like, you seem like you could do bass. I think you'd like bass. And I was like, I don't care. Sure. I was like, if we're forced to get something, I'll grab that. Sure. So I got one of those little Fender starter kits. I don't think I have my bass here. I think I keep it at the church, but with the little rumble amps and, had that, played it for a while. And I think between that and then being in, concert band and everything, and then into marching band, started to develop an interest in music.
Oh, cool. So, did you ever play together with your family members, or?
Yeah, we'd kind of play passively. My brother, he, bless his heart, he would play the same 5 songs over and over again, Sweet Child of Mine, and I don't remember at this point what his go-tos were. But sometimes we would just kind of jam together. My sister had the drum kit in her room, so we'd just bring our guitars in there and just fiddle around. It wasn't anything coherent. And then it was, I think, junior year of high school, I started a band with a buddy of mine and his brother, and then eventually some moving parts. Eventually my brother joined, so then we were in a band together our senior year of high school and into college. That's a punk hard rock band.
Cool. The reason I ask is because I come from a very musical family. And my grandfather would always say, all you just play music and you never play together, because I've never played with my brother. I've never played with my sister-in-law. So I think that's pretty cool that you guys actually, got together and jammed and played together. So,
yeah. I think we would have done it more, but our musical styles are so different. It's interesting because obviously we're raised on the same stuff. Like, dad listened to 60s, 70s, 80s rock, and anything 90s and past, he was like, it's trash. And so I was like, all right, yeah, it's got to not be good, because you're kids. You're like, all right, I'll just trust whatever dad says. And then we listened to whatever was on, local Christian, contemporary station. I think Caleb was the one we'd listen to. And then once we started to get to the age where we were able to like spawn off, we all hit very different musical directions. I started getting into like the heavy metal, hardcore, hard rock, punk space. And then my brother went full like folk. And then my sister was kind of like in the middle, listening to like indie and getting into like pop punk and stuff. So we kind of had like between the three of us a nice broad array of style that really didn't have a whole lot of overlap.
Okay, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Like you, at some point I found myself behind the drum kit in the worship team, and I found worship music to be really diverse and challenging. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you see it that way? Or
I agree with that. Even so, I'd mentioned that I've got plenty of people who can just like take up and lead, which is amazing. So if I need like a week off, like if I have a show a Saturday night and I'm like, I don't want to be up early the next day, I know I can have someone there and I could sleep in. I can go to another church. I can just be there in the congregation. And that being said, with all those great people who can lead, they execute the songs in such unique worship styles that it's like that's one thing I'm trying to like work on, is bringing a cohesive, like, this is our church worship sound, even when so-and-so's singing and so-and-so's singing and so-and-so's leading. Because like we have very different ways that we exhibit worship, which is really cool, because it's like, one body, like we're bringing our different skills and our different, experiences and different styles into this, which is, that's the purpose of, the body of Christ. So it's cool, but it's like, but how can we bring it and make it cohesive? So I completely agree. And
I just found it real challenging to play the different styles of, of all the different, different tunes that the worship team was playing. So I just wanted to comment on that, because there were times where I'd be practicing and my head just wanted to explode. So I just wanted to ask you about, now you told me about your writing process with the single. What's happening currently with the band? Are you planning shows? Are you writing? What's next? Anything else that you want to say about what Eden Has Fallen is up to as far as writing, as far as performing?
Yeah, so the next thing we have lined up show-wise, we're playing a back-to-school type event at a church for like the youth group, and the person putting it on, I think his kid is in the youth group. It's in Cincinnati, so a couple hours south of Columbus. And I just saw I don't remember if it was like a local Ohio music Facebook group or if it was like a Christian Facebook group or what, but he just was like, hey, we need rock and metal bands for this thing. Who wants to do it? And I was like, all right. So we've got that lined up this coming Saturday. And then I think we're going to be playing, there's a funny enough Breakaway, a lot of connections with the band Breakaway.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
The drummer's wife somehow connected with this charity event that's getting put on September 14th, and my indie band's playing it for sure. And then we might be playing it as well. I just need to see if I can secure a drummer. That's the problem with, having fill-in players, is finding people who can fill in.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we don't have anything set in stone show-wise after that. But we are working currently on single number 2.
Okay, cool.
To come out. I have my calendar up. I think it's September 11th is when we're looking to release that.
Awesome.
Cheat sheet. Yep, September 11th. So that if we play that charity show, then we'll have the song released before that, and we can use the show to be like, hey, we're still on Spotify. Check this one, and Apple Music and YouTube. Like, check us out.
Yeah, it's always good to time a show around a release. That's great. I'm sure getting back to the youth program show, I'm sure a lot of the young folks are going to be inspired by what you guys do. So I think that's pretty awesome too. You don't know out of those young folks who's going to pick up a guitar or a bass and convey their faith, through music as well. So that sounds like a really cool thing. I wish you really well, wish you good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Endeavor. I have a question that I want to ask, and I want to phrase it carefully because unfortunately I didn't, with the previous interviews, it's not like any kind of deep, intense question, but I didn't phrase it carefully enough. And I'm curious with the folks that I interview, what you're listening to now. It doesn't mean that it has to be something current. Like for example, if someone asked me the same question, I've been listening to Vivaldi and Bach, so that didn't just come out. But the way that I phrased this question, folks were racking their brain. What am I listening to that's current? But that's not necessarily what I mean. I'm just curious, like if I came by your studio or whatever, what would you have? What would you have on? It could be from the 60s, from today, from whatever. I'm just curious what is capturing your attention right now.
Yeah. So recently, I just kind of have like a number of playlists. I have a bunch of playlists on Spotify that I've created over the years. I think probably over 200 at this point. And so recently I've been sticking to like a pocket of, 10 or so that I just like keep on rotation, beyond just like, oh, I'm going to hear this album or listen to this or that, but I generally stick within these playlists. One of which, and I'll actually pull up
cool
Spotify playlist over so I can reference. One I have is called Hard Rock for Believers that I made. It's just harder rock, not quite into like the heavy metal kind of space, but and I listened to that for inspiration, for songwriting to bring in some of those rock elements into our sound.
Yeah, I was just gonna. You anticipate a lot of my questions. I was gonna ask, is this bleeding into your writing and stuff like that? So you know exactly what I'm gonna ask you.
Yep. And so with anytime I'm like getting ready to focus on like writing in a given project, I try to listen to music within that, which for this, heavier stuff for Eden, it's a lot easier because I love this stuff. For my other band, Still Castle, my indie pop band, it's a little harder because I don't enjoy listening to that stuff as much. Where like I can get so many songs in and I'm like, all right, I've had my fill of indie. Like let's move back to punk or rock or metal or whatever.
Gotcha.
And then so I'll kind of I'll answer your question the way that you don't want me to answer it, but it's part of my answer. I love finding new music from underground artists. So something I do every Friday is I have like between my release radar, and then I have a number of playlists between like the Spotify, new rock, new heavy metal, new pop, new rap, new whatever, between those like, generic playlists, and then whatever curated playlists I can find that people have created. Like there's one that is just a bunch of Indian pop music. And the playlist is called Girl Music. Girl is GRRRL music, New Music Friday. And then these people that curate this, they just pull in new music released that day, that previous week.
Right.
So I pull from that playlist and a bunch of other like various rock, metal, punk, pop, alternative, whatever. And I compile them all into my own playlist that I then kind of sift through and separate them either into my like hard rock, heavy metal, hardcore, punk rock playlist, or my softer indie, alt pop, R&B, whatever. And I'll listen through those. And it can be bands from all over, like US or even, international. So I love listening to that. But then more specifically where I find myself is listening to those in my like kind of like more local, close-knit circle. So primarily Columbus based, Dayton, Ohio based, Cincinnati, Cleveland, in this area. But then also if I met a band at a show that I was seeing, a buddy of mine was playing and a touring band came in, maybe they released a new song. So I'm like, all right, they're close. So I'll throw them into this more close knit playlist.
Cool.
Or for example, there's a band from Pennsylvania called Die Tired. Never met the guys. I saw a Facebook ad from them selling merch. And so I bought a shirt and connected with them, and they were like, hey, thanks for buying, yada, yada, yada. And I'd wear it to shows and they would repost my stuff on their stories and stuff like that. And so like, I feel close to them, even though I've never met them. And I don't know if I honestly ever will, because if I ever make my way over there. So bands like that, where I've developed more of, I guess, like a personal connection with, whether it from the area or, abroad.
Yeah, no, cool. Yeah. Like, I'm just pleased with myself that I finally executed that question correctly. And yeah, I don't mean to exclude current music, but I just, like I said, what are you listening to currently, no matter where it's from? So, all right, I finally, this is the fourth interview. I finally did that correctly. So thank you for that.
Yes.
So let's see. I just, I guess, as we draw to the end of our conversation here, I just want to give you the floor in case you want to. I mean, I know you talked about your upcoming shows and singles, but in case you want to give a shout out to anyone, or if you want to mention where you guys can be found or anything like that, I just want to give you some time to do that in case you would like to. So.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you can definitely find us on most social media platforms. We're generally Eden Has Fallen, and then band or underscore band or dash band. And then we're on streaming platforms. We have Heroes Heart out on YouTube Music, Apple Music, Spotify, ... And then again, we have our second single coming out. I think we're calling it The Pain. I used to have like the long, when I first started this band, I wanted to have like the long, emo titles, pop punk titles. So it was called The Pain That Comes From Loving You. But
I was just about to ask you, do you have a working title? So once again, you anticipated me.
We do, and it's kind of nice. This is the first song that I brought to the band, and so it's a little different than Heroes Heart. Heroes Heart's a lot more just like metalcore, and honestly a lot more classic metal than we thought it was going to come out. But this song is like The Pain is kind of our power ballad, and so it's a 6/8 nice like open space, very very melodic. There's not a lot of heavy with it. We're trying to incorporate some heavy elements now that we know how we want to sound, but it's a pretty straight rock ballad. Which we kind of like, because we're directionally trying to have that broad sense of style, where we can have these heavy metalcore songs with intricate solos, and then we can have these more soft ballady ones, which will still have a cool solo. Because my guitarist, like, I'll shout him out, Isaiah Tanner, he makes the band. Like,
yeah,
he is a phenomenal player. I've never played with someone, especially someone as fresh into playing music, because he's relatively new at it. Someone who can just write so melodically, but yet so technically, and love that in a guitarist. So this is not just riff salad all the time. It's like there's thought behind it, but it's like he's still doing cool stuff.
Cool.
So it's so awesome. And then being able to take my weird brain thoughts, I'll be like, do something like this, and I'll hum something, and he'll be like this, and I'm like, exactly like that. How did you? So love the guy.
Yeah, no, sometimes it's hard to communicate musical ideas, you hear it in your head, but then how do I say it to somebody to get them to play it? So I understand what you're saying with that. Well, listen, Thomas, I thank you, so much for coming on and talking about Eden Has Fallen today. You're of course welcome. You guys are, when the single's coming out or you have a show you like to promote, you just let me know about that. On a personal note, as a Christian man myself, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and of course, I wish you the best with it, and I hope that your message gets out there as much as possible. And like I said, in particular, to the young folks who are going to be fortunate enough to check you guys out. So if you don't mind, before I just say so long to the audience, I just ask you to hold on, and after I hit record, I'll talk to you for a minute or two. But anyway, thanks to the viewing audience. Definitely go check out Eden Has Fallen on social media, on the listening platform. That's pretty cool. On on the streaming platforms, and and hopefully we'll have their music on LINL Radio pretty soon too. So okay, I'll be looking forward to that. All right, thank you, Thomas. And like I said, just hang on. I'll hang on for a second, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.